Pacific Rim, this is the science fiction film that was directed by Guillermo del Toro, written by him and Travis Beacham. It stars Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba, Rinko Kikuchi, Charlie Day, and Ron Perlman. The film is set in the 2020s when Earth is under attack by kaiju, which is Japanese for strange creature, though now it's just kind of become synonymous with giant monsters. These are colossal monsters which have emerged from a portal on the ocean floor. To combat these monsters, humanity has had to unite to create the Jaegers, which is, of course, for those who have seen it, they know it. It's German for hunters. These are gigantic humanoid mecha, each controlled by two pilots whose minds are joined by a neural bridge called drifts. In the film, Raleigh Beckett, played by Hunnam, is brought out of retirement to pilot one of his mecha, Gypsy Danger, in the hopes of stopping the kaiju once and for all. Yeah, I mean, this is a movie filled with big robots, big monsters, doing some pretty big shit. Let's go ahead and get started right off the bat, guys. On the story on this, the story of humanity's desperate struggle against what looks like impossible odds. What did you think? Did you think the story was enough? Did you think the special effects are what really had to carry it through? How'd you guys enjoy it?
I thought the story was probably one of the weakest parts of, well, I don't want to say that it was the weakest part of this movie. It was one of the more lacking. I mean, it was basically, it just kind of set it up as far as saying, all right, here's what's been going on lately. Here's where we're at now. And then it was just kind of predictable from there on. In a movie like this, you're not expecting deep thoughts. So, I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, it didn't distract from it, but it wasn't exactly very, it's fairly predictable. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I felt that every time that we were in a scene that wasn't an action scene, I was tapping my foot and wanted to be in another action scene.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Did anybody else feel like it was like Top Gun? Because I felt Top Gun a lot.
In the whole hangar scene, when they're all like, I literally leaned over to my buddy and said, "You can be my wingman anytime."
I just kept thinking of like Top Gun.
I never really got a heavy, military vibe that a movie like
really?
Top Gun. No, and one of the interesting things is that Guillermo del Toro, he's not. He's a pretty well-known pacifist, and so one of the things that he wanted to do in this film to try and take away from the military aspect was to use terms like rangers and marshal as opposed to colonels, captains, and things like that. He wanted to give these characters different ranks that didn't make you immediately think of the military. I loved the aspect of the Jaeger pilots being looked at as almost like these celebrities. The names of their robots were inventive and colorful. You didn't see a Panzer tank just driving around. These guys had color and flair, and Gypsy Danger was the American mecha. The Chinese was a Crimson Typhoon. I forget the names of the others that were involved in it, but they all had their own unique looks. And I thought that was really fun that these guys were heroes and almost like sports athletes and not, your regular average military guy. And for me, that made the story more fun.
I thought they were military all the way. I never thought anything less than just your military. I just want to say the story, because I didn't get to speak to the story. There is no story, man. It's literally a teenage boy's wet dream. Monsters versus robots. I mean, if you would have had like Megan Fox or Jennifer Lawrence, teenage boys across the world would have exploded. That's all it is. And that's all it needs to be.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're hating on this.
I wasn't hating on it. I just thought it was very reminiscent of Top Gun.
We're talking about the story not being that good. You don't need an in-depth story for giant robots fighting giant lizards.
Absolutely not. There's nothing deep about it, and it doesn't need to be.
I do want to say that I think the two Russian guys were severely underutilized. I wanted to see more with those.
You mean Iceman?
Yeah.
What about Charlie Hunnam, Brian?
Well, he was wanting to go into the acting section of this, but I did want to mention one other story element, and it was Charlie Day's whole part of the film where he's the nerdy science guy, and so he's going to try and figure out, what's going on while the guys and the robots do the fighting. Those were the only segments of the movie where I did kind of find myself going, can they hurry this along? There's got to be some fighting going on out there.
Did you agree with
part
me?
Of the story did kind of let me down a little.
I kind of thought his entire character, like, you could have solved that whole problem by just one guy at the end going, hey, I figured this shit out. Seriously.
Or just have him kind of doing it in the background the whole movie, and then at the very end, oh, wait, and then bring him forward.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have had Ron Perlman.
That's true.
That's the only thing I agree with Justin. That's the only thing I thought Charlie Day brought to the movie was Ron Perlman. Mm-hmm. That's it. I really didn't like his arc at all. I actually
liked the two of those scientist guys banter and back and forth. I thought that was fun.
But it wasn't as clever as what it
was trying.
Is what I think they probably wanted it to be. Charlie Day is funny, but he's I think he's right now he's just proven that he's that one trick pony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very much.
But as far as the acting goes, Charlie Hunnam's the star of this. Idris Elba and Rinko Kachuki both kind of play second fiddle. How did you guys feel like they held up their end of the deal?
I thought he was Jax Teller.
Really?
Yes.
God, we're just going to disagree this whole movie.
He's the exact same dude. Seriously, he even has that stupid swagger from the show. I like him. He's a charming guy, but that is the character.
That's from Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah. He just shoots less people. That's it.
Yeah. He just had a bomber jacket instead of a black hoodie.
Did you agree, Brian? You thought he was pretty much
This I got to switch to the dark side on this one. I agree. It was Jax. That's all I kept. That's who I saw the whole time. I'm like, all right, he's got a cooler ride than a motorcycle.
Maybe it's what you saw, but for me, Jax, and not to go off on that whole thing, but that's an angry, vicious guy. The character Raleigh that he played in this film was not that angry.
Jax has a lot of light moments too, and that's totally
and he's sensitive at certain points of it and everything.
Yeah, when he's not busting some fucker's head open or shooting a bitch.
No, I don't know. You agree to disagree. I thought he didn't do anything different at all. I didn't see.
All right. What about the rest of the cast?
I wasn't really impressed with pretty much anybody. I don't know, Aaron disagrees with me. I wasn't even impressed with Idris Elba's performance.
You were so wrong.
I didn't like him.
Today we are canceling the apocalypse. I don't care how cheesy and pathetic that writing is. It was good. He delivered.
The whole there was a scene where Charlie Hunnam's character puts his hands on him, and Idris Elba gives him this look of death, like, you just touched me and whatever. It just looked like he was acting to me. I
thought he was...
just fucking awesome.
Agree to disagree. I thought that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, honestly.
2 rules or something?
Don't mistake my calm demeanor for acceptance or whatever it was he said. And then he pointed his ear and just kind of leaned in. I was like, oh, shit. He is owning the screen.
He was intimidating, really intimidating in that one scene. I wasn't blown away by anybody either. And I didn't know whether he was supposed to be American or British.
No British.
Or what. Because his voice changed throughout the movie.
That's true, it did.
And it was like, I wasn't sure if was his British accent slipping out or was his, American voice slipping out. I wasn't sure which way he was supposed to be going. But there's a
her first flying lesson. Her first flying lesson.
No, before that, you're kind of seeing all these characters come together. Her and Idris Elba and Jax Tellers. They're all kind of doing their thing, and it hit me like midway through, like, oh wait, this is a growing moment in the story, and I really don't care.
Yeah, I didn't care about many of the human characters, honestly.
I'm just like, when's something going to come busting through a wall? That's
yeah.
Look, Del Toro, his movies are definitely more about the style and the look and the production and how everything relates, and that's what the movie is all about, honestly.
Yeah, I can't agree. I think Guillermo del Toro has done quite a few films that are about more than look and style. Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone. Hell, I think even the Hellboy movies have got, some pretty decent story going into them. So I got to disagree with you on that. And I think Rinko did a fantastic job. She was vulnerable. She was soft when she needed to be, but I also thought she had quite an inner core of strength.
I will tell you, besides Idris Elba, she's the only one that I really liked in the cast. The other ones I'm like, they're who they need to be and they're fine. But I did like watching her arc, even if I didn't think her arc was written great. I really liked her performance. I thought she was very
I
interesting.
don't know. It might be a fault of the writing and stuff too, but like in the training sequence where they're training hand-to-hand combat or whatever, that just felt like a cheesy thing out of the '80s. It felt awkward. I don't know. It just
Felt like a volleyball game.
All right, guys. Well, what did you think of the production of this film? I mean, it's pretty obvious from every trailer that this movie is about big creatures, big robots, kicking the shit out of each other. There has to be a bright spot in this film. Is that it? And if so, how big of a bright spot was it?
absolutely. I was smiling during every action scene of this movie. I felt like I was 13 years old watching Jurassic Park for the first time or something. Like it was, that big of a spectacle for me, but even more gorgeous, grander scale. It was a blast to watch. Just seeing them pick up a big tanker and using it as a baseball bat.
That was so cool.
The freaking, what do they call it, rocket elbow or something? It's just so cool. It was awesome. And it looked good. I saw it in IMAX 3D. I don't know if I know you.
No, I didn't see it in IMAX.
I did. I was so glad I did. That looked good. The sound was awesome. What about you guys?
Yeah, I saw it in standard whatever 3D, and I thought this is the best use of 3D that I've seen in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Just everything, the special effects, the detail with the environment around it, whether it's smashing and falling buildings, whether it's dust in the air, whether it's snow that's being disheveled because or suit robot, a Jaeger falls down on it or something, whatever the case is, it was just phenomenal. This and I tweeted this out whenever I left the movie. This is why you go to the theater to see certain movies.
I agree 100%.
The bigger the screen, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And honestly, this is one of the very few movies where it is absolutely worth the extra few bucks to go see it in 3D. That's just my 2 cents.
I couldn't agree more.
I loved it.
Honestly, probably some of the best special effects I've seen. This is exactly what I wanted the last 2 Transformers movies to be, because I hated the second Transformers, and I thought the third one's okay. This was better than all 3 of them combined, if you ask me. Granted, I didn't love the last 2, but still. It's everything I wanted because I felt like a little kid. Because seriously, like Scott said, he uses a tanker as a bat, and I almost peed myself. Like I almost had to get up and go pee. Just everything about it was, the battles were overdone. They were absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of them, so it isn't like you're gypped. I mean, the last entire 45 minutes is just one huge battle scene after battle scene after battle scene. Mm-hmm. It's just well done, man. I mean, in my written review, I gave it an 8. Which I'm going to do here as well. So I mean, but
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. But the reason I can say the acting was just okay and the story was just okay and the dialogue was kind of cheesy is because of everything else. Because this is one of those movies that doesn't have to have all those things. Not every movie has to be a fucking critic's darling. Mm-hmm. This isn't one of them. This is just something that you go to the movie and you have fun with. And I did.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, Aaron already gave his verdict, so we don't have to go to him. Brian and Scotty, $10 is the price of admission. What would you give it?
Well, despite me tapping my foot during the non-action sequences, it had me grinning nonstop during every action sequence. It was a blast in its high moments, and one that it just begs to be seen in the theater. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts out just high octane right out of the gate. Dips down a little bit, but like you said, those last 45 minutes or so is just one freaking great ride. I'm giving it a strong 8.5.
Nice.
If they had taken some of that time that Charlie Day eats up and given it over to some more battles, I would give it a strong 9 out of 10. But because I did kind of feel a little bored in the middle, I got to take a point off. So, I'm going to give it an 8. I went into this with incredibly high expectations that I don't think any movie really could have lived up to. But at the end of it, I was really delighted with what I got. 8 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoyed it. People, go to the theaters. See this film. If your inner child isn't delighted, then it's dead inside.